Morning, everyone. I apologize for not getting to a second video again. I do my best, and I did do a local one yesterday, and I'll probably do another local one today. And I'll be live at 1 p.m. with Kelly Day, which should be fun, and I'm looking forward to that. So it'll be wonderful to hang out with Kelly on her channel. So I'll be doing that. My video for last night that I kind of created, well, this was my opening meme, so that's kind of funny. I thought it was poignant. The fake news, liberal media. But yesterday it got pointed out to me that there are actually two y-axis on these charts, and the father's ends at 160,000 and the mother's ends at 700,000. So there is a large discrepancy between mothers and fathers. You could have done it on one y-axis, everybody, and made things very clear, but the Canadian data people decided to make this a very muddy graph. So I apologize for misreporting the numbers. I think my point still stands. I think that using Mother's Day to backhandedly shame fathers is not a great move, because little boys grow up into fathers and hopefully they stick around, right? And that's, I mean, my goodness, 80% currently, using the numbers in this graph, stick around, right? 20% of families with children aged less than 16 and up are single parent, right? So, and I mean, of that certain amount are men and women, whatever. The parent is a man or a woman, split whichever way. But it's still a weird thing to do on Mother's Day. Just weird. Here is Jagmeet Singh,
I believe,
eliminating himself from contention or removing any centrist liberals or anybody who understands how Canada's economy works from taking him seriously as a political leader or candidate. Here he is.
I believe the future of Canada does not include fracking. We cannot be fracking. We cannot be relying on fossil fuels to burn as an energy source at all in our country. We need to move to a future that is renewable. That's why I'm calling for a complete end of all fossil fuel subsidies. We need to invest in green energy. We need to invest in clean energy, renewable energy. That is the future for our country.
So Mr. Singh is saying use all that money that goes into developing our natural resources, because oil is a natural resource, to put it into green energy, right? But the problem is that the national resources, oil, can be sold at market for money, right, and traded back. Green resources just require money, and they don't actually return anything back. They're consumable products, either they're solar panels or wind turbines or batteries, right? And these things are made in China or across the ocean. What's their carbon footprint, right? What's their carbon footprint? This green economy thing has wonderful buzzwords, but the reality of it is very different. It's a lot of carbon. There's a lot of manufacturing that goes into this. What about disposal of the giant lithium batteries? Is that included as well? What are we going to do with them when they're done? Right? Are we going to pile them in some desert? What's the plan? I don't know what the plan is. Is that not something to have a discussion about? And so saying that we should cut off fossil fuels completely, entirely, and the future is green, well, great, but how are you going to replace Alberta? And if you can replace Alberta in Alberta, can you not replicate that across Canada? What's your plan, Mr. Singh? I don't understand. Are we just going to turn off all of the fossil fuels and we'll figure it out? Because that's not much of a plan. It also doesn't take into account the fact that a whole bunch of our provinces have industries built on their natural resources. So it seems really kind of tone deaf for you to say that. And what about exporting our liquefied natural gas to China to reduce their coal reliance and have them generating energy off natural gas instead of coal, which is cleaner, right? I'm just putting it out there, Mr. Singh. I don't understand and I mean, this is a 22-second soundbite, right? But that's laying out, we're really strong on the environment. Well, I mean, great, but the plan is flimsy at best. Opposition MPs call for emergency committee meeting on Liberal conduct in Norman case. Yeah, Mark Norman. This thing's a big deal, a very big deal. Conservative and NDP members of the House of Commons National Defence Committee want an emergency meeting to examine the government's conduct in the case of Vice Admiral Mark Norman. The Crown stated a breach of trust charge last week against the former second-in-command of the Canadian Forces, but the government has faced heated questions about its role in the case since Norman was first removed from his position without explanation in January 2017. In a letter sent on Sunday to Stephen Fuhr, the Liberal chair of the committee, sorry if I got that wrong, Stephen, the Conservative and NDP members say they want to call a total of 14 witnesses to appear before the committee to answer questions on how the government handled the case. Quote, the Prime Minister on numerous occasions prejudiced the conduct of this matter by inappropriately anticipating that the RCMP's investigation would result in a prosecution. This suggests that he and his cabinet had inappropriate access to information regarding an independent criminal proceeding, the letter said. It is also clear that the government tried to politically interfere in a shipbuilding contract. When this came to light, he reacted, not redacted, by smearing the reputation of a highly respected naval officer. This has had a deleterious effect, sorry if I've got that wrong, on the morale of the Canadian Armed Forces. The Conservatives and NDP members are asking for a meeting on their request within 5 days, and the following requested witnesses appear no later than May 24th. Vice Admiral Norman, Prime Minister Trudeau, Minister of Defense Harjit Sajjan, Minister of Justice Dave Lametti, Minister of Public Safety Ralph Goodall, Minister of Public Service and Procurement Carla Qualtrough, sorry if I've got that wrong, former President of the Treasury Board Scott Bryson from the Bank of Montreal, right? He's spending time with his family at the Bank of Montreal. Former Minister of Public Service and Procurement Judy Foote, Chief of Defense Staff General Jonathan Vance, former Clerk of the Privy Council Michael Wernick, crazy conspiracy theorist Michael Wernick, Katie Telford, and the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff Gerald Butts, the Prime Minister's former Principal Secretary, yes, and members of Parliament for Orleans Andrew Leslie, and James Cudmore, the Director of Policy for the Minister of Democratic Institutions. And the rest of this article kind of goes through what we already know about Admiral Norman. If you don't know the whole story, I've done multiple reports on it. Just have a search of Mark Norman, and you'll see. Here's a tweet that's getting it's only 76 votes when I voted on it, and I haven't refreshed this page, so that was a few days ago, but 96% say in response to this, no. And the tweet is, quote, liberal mainstream media say that the SNC Lavalin affair scandal is over now, and Trudeau can now move on. Are they right? And then the same in French. And no, they're not. 96% say no, but it's a small sampling. I just put it in there for fun. National Post is reporting Alberta Premier Jason Kenney says provincial carbon tax will die on May 30th. Premier Jason Kenney says Alberta's carbon tax will be dead soon. Kenney says the Carbon Tax Repeal Act is to be introduced during the next week's legislature sitting and will have a proviso to end the tax by the end of the month. By May 30th, there will no longer be an Alberta carbon tax, Kenney said in a news conference outlining some of the legislation coming from his new United Conservative government. So that's interesting. And this is Mother's Day. This is a drag queen, I think. And if this was a female, if we were recording John Tory in an establishment where women do this on Mother's Day, would this be celebrated? We're just going to watch 20 seconds. Here we go. Happy Mother's Day, right? Clap away, Mr. Tory. What if that was a 20-year-old girl, 30-year-old woman? Right? Who knows? Either one. Would it have been appropriate? No, I don't think so. Here's a concerning story that I'll leave you off with. Judge awards GTA restaurateur $2.5 million for suffering, quote, hate speech at its worst. Hate speech at its worst. A self-stylized online media personality whose website frequently air anti-Muslim content has been ordered to pay the owner of a prominent Middle Eastern restaurant chain millions of dollars after publicly accusing him of funding terrorism. Ontario Superior Court Justice Jane Ferguson ordered Kevin J. Johnson to pay a total of $2.5 million in damages for defamation to Mohammed Faki, the owner and founder of Paramount Fine Foods. Sorry if I got that wrong. Mr. Faki, and again, sorry if I've got that wrong, has had an endorsement from the Prime Minister multiple times on Twitter and from the Prime Minister's office on video. It's incredible, really, the ties that this person has to power in Canada. Anyway, back to the article. Johnson, who operated websites including freedomreport.ca and recently came in second place in Mississauga's mayoral race, posted multiple videos attacking Faki. In the video shot in 2017, Johnson made a series of incendiary statements, including a claim Faki was, quote, an economic terrorist with backing from the Pakistani spy agency. He also alleged restaurant policy barred staff from admitting anyone who wasn't a jihadist. Ferguson says Johnson's words amount to hate speech that called for a particularly strong condemnation from the court. $2.5 million. And I believe this wasn't a court, it was a public tribunal, right? This social justice tribunals that are running in Ontario, which are very concerning. So that's an interesting way to stifle questions. it's interesting. I don't condone or support what Mr. Johnson did or anything to that effect, but it's interesting that $2.5 million is levied for hate speech. And I mean, who gets to decide what's hate speech? How many people have to agree that that's hate speech? Is asking questions hate speech? Weird. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out the peoplespartyofcanada.ca. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for watching.